sharing their experience from tech leaders to tech leaders. This is CTO Talks.
Hello and welcome. My name is Marcin Jabłonowski and I have a pleasure of hosting today Sergey Shchegrikovich, the head of platform services at Palta. Hi, Sergey.
Hi, thanks for having me today.
Okay, great to have you here. So, Sergey, before we delve deep into the topic of today's episode, could you say a few words about yourself and your experience?
Okay, cool. So my experience basically is all about creating products, building teams for creating these products. So I think the most interesting part of it was in Gizmart, where I managed to help the company to create a team from 20 engineers to more than 150 engineers in just 3 years. So I was hired to help the company scale, and these days I'm creating different teams in Palta. But having such experience in Gizmart, and that's what I think makes it the most interesting.
Okay, so I think this is getting us to the topic of today's episode very well. So, I mean, it's quite a common case that there is a demand to build an engineering team quite rapidly, but it's like not without any issues. Yeah, so there are always challenges because if you want to build a team, probably there are risks and challenges of doing this rapidly. So what are the biggest challenges of building like such a big team so rapidly?
So there are many of them. I can just mention a few. So you basically need to find the right people. But usually when you feel and understand that the time to grow your team, that's you've got something at this point. So you need to make sure that your existing team, that people you're working with, they're okay to grow. That's another question, how to promote the culture we've built so far and how the new people help the new people to adopt it in the most possible and correct way. That's the second challenge. The third challenge will be just a bit later, when you need to onboard these people, when you need to promote your existing managers, coworkers, and yeah, so there are many of them. But the first one, from my experience, is to understand whether you need to grow or not. So what is a trigger for the company to start the growth? That's, I think, what we have at the beginning. Is it a time we can scale the team?
Yeah,
that's the question.
So what was the case for in this situation? Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Because okay, so you could just say what was the case here.
Yeah, so about my experience in Gizmart, at that time we had 5 or so well-performed products, mobile applications for iOS and Android platforms. And it was clear from business perspective that business will be growing. Mm-hmm. And the idea of the company at that moment was to develop more products. So basically, the growth was based on developing mobile applications and promoting them to the users. When I joined the team, it was kind of clear from business perspective, which may be not true for everyone. Sometimes you just grow because you have resources to it. Yeah. But in case of Gizmart, it was a clear business need for it, which was important. And also, not only we knew that we need to grow the team, but we also knew how this team should look like in terms of what kind of products we'll start developing and delivering to the market. And so in case of Gizmart, it was the easiest part.
Was it like externally funded, the whole process of growth, or?
So in terms of like Gizmart, it's still a private company, and for us it was like natural growth based on our revenue. Mm-hmm. So when I joined the company, they already had like 20 engineers in the team, and my goal was to help them scale. So with all my like knowledge and understanding of the process. Maybe it's makes sense to mention that at that time we were based in Minsk, and Minsk in 2017 was like a bit of, for me at least, like a capital of mobile development, at least in this part of the world, and having people around was also important, and because you cannot grow if you don't have people around. You just need to have it.
All right, so what, like, how do you approach this process? So you know you need to grow. You have a purpose. You have a goal.
Yeah.
Probably you have a backlog. That's
Yeah.
a high-level backlog. How do you prepare for this?
So basically, you just at least on high level understand your roadmap. Maybe in some cases it even helps to understand your portfolio. So what you will enter your portfolio if it's like multi-product company, as it was in case of Gizmo. So we understood like there will be new products in pipeline which we need to deliver.
Yeah.
So and then you start just thinking what you've got right now. So your first step is to understand your current situation, where you are, what kind of people you already have in your team, what kind of processes you have in your team. So you can look at it from levels of maturity from in different angles basically. So there's like one level or maturity levels for engineering culture, for engineering process. But when talking about the company growth specifically, you just need to take into account not only engineering, you just need to take into account HR, just take into account everything. So basically, people in your team, they're like customer of your processes and customer of your company. So they need to feel it, they need to believe in it with you. So just the first step in this, understand where you are right now. Do you have like what kind of engineering processes do you have, and where you want to be, let's say at some like in half a year on. So in my case, it was kind of, and what I can see from the industry, small teams, they work the best. I mean,
Small meaning?
Yeah, small, like from 5 to 9 people works the best. And when you grow, you can still doing the same. So you just need to split your business to several, or as many as you want, value streams inside the company.
Yeah.
So each value stream, it's a good approach for.
But I assume in your case it wasn't that difficult because you had to develop different products, right?
Yeah, exactly. So when you've got a product might be a value stream, but maybe not.
Yeah.
So for instance, one product can have like several value streams. In mobile world, usually you've got a product which might be a value stream, but you also have like backend part of it. You might have like some support. So basically, there are support people who respond to customer emails.
Yeah.
That's another value stream, like simplest example.
All right, you mentioned about one important thing, yeah? So I think that not all companies think about that, but culture, yeah? And I think that the biggest issue is maintaining the culture during such a rapid growth, yeah? It's not that you're gonna get people that will think like you. Yeah, they may have good technical skills, but they may not think or share your values in your company. Yeah? How do you make sure that the culture is retained?
So there are two different cases. Case number one, you start from your team from scratch. In this case, you are the first like developer, manager, or whatever in this team. It's a bit easier. The second case, when you join existing team, and in this second case, you need to understand what is culture right now. So for people, usually it's kind of hard to specifically define it because there's so many levels of it. So what I see, what works for me and my approach. So there is basically like value level or value basement. So values you believe in. The second like level, this is like your principles, which are based on your level, on your values.
Yeah.
And then there's like level of behavior. So basically how you show your values and principles to like the rest of the world, to your team. And on top of it, on top of your behavior, you actually see the culture. So from my perspective, culture is kind of influence level. So how like people who don't didn't manage to already adapt your culture, they by this influence level they can start doing as you do.
Yeah.
So
like followers.
Yeah, exactly. So if you wanna specify like culture, you better work on these like value level, principle, and behavior levels.
So I mean, in my previous episode with Simin Sulari, we talk a lot about something you mentioned. So about the goals, the story of the company, which includes values and principles as well. So my question is either whether you need to communicate it or you assume that it's gonna work implicitly when you have a team that already understands the values, or you make some communication strategy on the goals. So how was the case here? Because I believe this is probably one of the biggest challenge I saw in many companies to first of all identify, then to communicate the goals properly, as well as values and principles the company follows.
That's a really good question. So if you have unlimited time, you can do whatever you like. Yeah. But usually in tech domain, tech sphere, when we develop digital products, we need to move fast. We need to move quick. And that's why you just need to have a mix of approaches. So basically, people who work with you, they will understand your behavior and they will be following you because that's what you do. But my approach is that you always have like these onboarding for new people in your team. And in my case, onboarding consists of like 1 hour call or whatever, where I talk about how specifically these new persons in the team can be successful in this company. So, and by defining it as a success rules or success criteria, you basically transfer your culture, you transfer your principles, behavior, and values. So on these onboarding calls, what I do, I just, first of all, I describe what we do. So what is our business, how we make money, what we need to make more money, basically. Then I discuss a bit of how things are here, so, and what behavior need to show. So again, simple rules like about communication, how you need how it's the best way of communicating with other people. So when you start your onboarding like procedure, usually on the first day in the company, it's like a couple of items. Then day after day, you add more and more and more. And after a couple of years in the company, your onboarding document, which you present to new people, it's like huge enough, like a couple of pages.
And no one reads it anymore.
Yeah. So it can consist of anything you think important, but one of them, it can be conflict resolution. So how we solve conflicts, what we do in these and that situations normally. So again,
like a guidebook on how to behave. So I assume it's not only like the behaviors we value, but also the ones that the company doesn't accept, right? And this is something we discussed with Hassan Lashgar in the episode about ethical and unethical behavior in work.
Exactly. So one thing I like to do is to always talk about respect. That's something we just have here. That's like by definition. So that's true. All right,
so we're slowly getting into the recruitment process or hiring strategies. So would you probably filter out, I mean, during the recruitment process, do you check for the values that the candidates represent or they believe in? Or you assume that you are able to, adapt them or to your culture?
So I think my approach is pretty simple. It's always better not to hire a good candidate than to hire a bad one. So mishire, when you hire someone who doesn't fit to your position and you understand it in a couple of months, that's actually kind of what the sign that you need to tweak your process. So if you see like on the first kind of minutes of interview or after the interview that this candidate doesn't fit on any of parameters, you just shouldn't hire. That's it. It's always depends because situations are like, they can be different. For instance, in case of hyper growth of the company, you might relax some of your requirements for the position because you need to close the position faster.
That's another question.
That's
because,
possible.
Very often when your company grows and wants to grow rapidly, due to global market situation, it's not the only company on the market trying to grow rapidly. So the labor market becomes very competitive. And there is a temptation because you got a pressure to reach a certain headcount at some point.
Right.
There is a pressure and temptation to make shortcuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you experienced that? And what's your take on that? Of course, who hasn't?
So I just, in this case, you need to understand what you're doing, basically. So my approach is kind of simple. I like to interview for soft skills first. So because believe if for hard skills, you can always train it and quite quickly to do it. But for soft skills, it requires more time to change yourself and to adapt to new situations. So there's like even a term called cognitive flexibility, which basically for me describes what soft skills means. You need to be flexible in work environment, and can you show it on your interview? So and when you make a shortcut, as you say, basically another story of it is to so what will be in reality once you hire a person who doesn't fit quite well for, let's say, like 95% instead of like 100%. In this case, this 5%, what you cover with your time. So your job as a manager is to help this person to adapt. And then you got this kind of simple equation. On one side, you get performance of your new person. On the right hand, you have your time. So once you spend more resources to support such like environment, then you're just losing money.
Yeah.
So it's always need to be in some kind of balance between what you invest in people and what people invest back or return back to the company. That's what I will say.
Is it you checking, interviewing for the soft skills?
Yeah.
Okay. So now, while I mean, for us engineers, let me call it like that, it's quite easy to check for hard skills. Yeah, we know the stuff. It's like measurable. You can assess some knowledge basically. Do you have like a well working strategies for checking for soft skills? I mean, because this is something that there is probably no book about that, or maybe there is no like set of rules you can follow, but what are your strategies to check for the culture fit, because this is what you're checking for, right? And the attitude and stuff like that.
So returning back to onboarding process, in onboarding, like after a couple of months, you'll have a list of attributes of behaviors you want to see in the people. So this list is basically a list of requirements for any new candidate. So an interviewer, you're basically taking your values, like principles or like behavioral, like, and then just ask person whether it's something resonates with this person, or rather like show me an example of you doing this previously. In fast-growing companies, in startups, really good example is that people need to adopt fast. So there are some people who like to work on well-defined requirements, and they want to understand the progress of the product, like in a year or two. But there are other people who like to change quickly, who can throw away their work. It's really hard to throw away like a feature if you just develop it. And just you need to be very transparent to person as an interviewer and saying like, look, we work in this environment. Can you show me an example like you've been doing it previously? So for instance, tell me an example like when you finish a feature but didn't release it. How did you feel about it? What was the reason? Tell me more about it. And then you just need to listen very, very carefully what people are saying. That's kind of it.
All right. So let's say the recruitment is done, onboarding process is done. Yeah. Now there is this like initial period of let's say knowing each other. And how do you make sure, because like for me every recruitment is an investment, so how do you make sure that the onboarding period at the very beginning is going in the right direction?
So the again, the process I like to use, it's called like finding A players, and it's based on a scorecard. So before the interview, you just need to prepare like a scorecard. This card just tells you, or basically describe like a specification for a position, what kind of requirements need to be. But also there's one part at the bottom of this card which is called outcomes in the 3 months. So basically after probation period, whatever the length of probation is. And here you describe what you want to have. And this is what you tell on the interview, saying like, we expect if you accept our offer, you expect in 3 months or 6 months to see this and this from you. So from even before signing a contract, you understand what you'll be doing. And one of these things, so not only like outputs or outcomes of your work, but also we need to build a trust between each other. That's kind of new thing, new person.
Yeah.
And from my perspective, trust, like two parts in it. The first part, you need to deliver work. So it needs to be some kind of artifacts of your work. So if it's developer, you just need to write a feature, like develop a feature, deploy it. If you're a manager, then maybe something else. But there's always like artifacts, something you can touch. It might be a file, it might be like a Notion page, whatever. And there's a second part of it, of this trust. It's visibility. So we need to understand how you're doing it. So visibility and transparency, that's, from my perspective, it's responsibility of everyone in the team. You need to be transparent to everyone else. So we need to understand not only that you deliver the result, but also how you deliver it. The example I use in my practice is like, there's a feature. If I see only one check-in in, let's say,
2
months,
weeks,
in months or whatever, but the feature like delivered, it works fine. There's delivered work, but there's no transparency.
Yeah.
On the other side, if they like check in every day, but at the same time no feature in like 2 months, there's a visibility. We see you're doing something, but at the same time there's no work at the end of the day. So you need to have both of these things, and that's what trust is, and then deliver what we discussed on the interview like before.
Is it something that you required, a daily check-in to the repository?
I think the requirement is to be transparent to the team.
Yeah.
That's the requirement, or rather the way we work. But it's up to you.
But transparency followed by evidence or just declarations? Because you can meet every day on stand-up. I've been working on this. I still work on this.
So from my perspective, from my experience, you can track progress on a project by delivered artifacts. Yeah. So what is delivered artifacts? You can move a ticket from to do to in done, for instance. Yeah. That's an action. So evidences, that's right. But from what I see, kind of, it's really hard to say specific numbers, but what we are saying, like, look, if you make like 5 comments per request, in your case, it should be like 50 or 200 like comments per your pull request. It should be the same 5-10 as average. It's specifically about the developer. So there are some evidences, but in most cases, like you can just see.
Okay. All right. So quickly growing engineering teams means that the structure of the engineering, let's say, department can grow as well, meaning probably some additional management levels introduced in between. Now, how do you approach a topic of promoting people, your own staff, to managers, team leaders, whatever, versus hiring from the market?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So,
I mean, because it's a very tricky one that causes a lot of emotion too, right?
Yeah. I mean, so as a manager, you need to be always transparent. So people, they need to understand your action. It's in case of promotion too. So you need to be clear to them. You cannot like promise things which you're gonna deliver to them. It basically doesn't work. So they're like, I like a mix of approaches. So for some positions, if you see that no one fits to it, you can hire from the market, and that's totally fine, especially if it's a new domain for you. For instance, you work on mobile devices, but next day or next week you need to start working on websites. You basically don't have these people. No,
of course, but this is like hard skills case, so competency skills.
Yeah, but there's the same story for promoting, because you might not have enough soft skills to manage a team. And again, you just need to show it to people, be transparent to them. Obviously, I prefer to promote from your team, because that's the way to show that it's possible to build a career inside the company, and that many different things looks great once you promote someone from the team. But again, even if you're promoting, there should be a set of interviews for this position. Even for people who do not pass these like interview, they need to understand why, and basically what they need to do to be promoted in the future.
Okay, so do you have like a career path defined with all the requirements for each level or role defined? Like, and is it like publicly available, transparent to everyone?
Yeah. So again, when you just start, you just have your experience and basically what you've got. But at some point in time, especially if you've got like 50, 70 developers, you need to build a structure. You need to build like processes. You don't want to spend like every week discussing what will be requirement for senior like developer position in our company, right? So in this case, yes, you just defined, and especially if you're introducing this practice as a new practice in your team, you need to calibrate your existing people and also like provide like explanation for newcomers. So yes, you build career path, you define it, you show what is required to be promoted. Some companies, especially if it depends on the culture, but some companies you can even you just need to show growth every year.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it will be problems for you in this company. That's also possible. And again, it depends on your business and especially on your market. Does market allows you to do this or not? That's the question.
Because the other question is, you got the requirements for each role level. However, due to various circumstances, the company is not growing. There are no positions open, let's say it like that. And someone can say, okay, I met all the requirements. Where's my progression or promotion?
I mean, that like for me, there are like two types of people. One people say, okay, in this case, we'll promote you, we'll change your title, but maybe not position or vice versa. It depends. It's possible. It's fine. It's up to your company. But for me, to be promoted, you need to fix a couple of things. First of all, you need to understand what will happen with your current responsibilities. Do you know who will be responsible for them? Second, they need to be a position. And third, you need to have skills for these. So once all of these 3 points met, you can be promoted. But again, from my perspective, as a being like hired employee myself, you can do all your best, whatever, but promotion is something what is defined on higher levels. So again, I will suggest always like to improve your knowledge, to work on your skills, and a promotion will be a side effect of it. So not the goal, but rather a side effect.
Of course, but assuming that there is nothing happening for years. I've been in such a case. That there are companies that let's say promotion cycle and progression cycle doesn't come naturally. But you get all the skills. And these are trusted people that have been with you for years, and you don't want to lose them. How to make sure you don't lose them? I mean, especially the more ambitious ones.
I would say they're like two sides. One side is like manager side, another side is like your teammate. So I would say that if you consider a case when you want to stay in the company from like this point of view, I would always suggest to be very close to business. Even as a developer, you need to understand the business. We are developers, we are like business architects in some way, and just by understanding business, you will see ways to give more value to this specific business, and that's will be your road to promotion. If you see there's no position, we are in kind of we call ourselves like R&D department. You just need to be researchers sometimes developers. And that's what you do as a developer. You just finding what business needs. You need to talk a lot to business people and then proposing this. As a manager, and that's kind of interesting because you don't have a position to promote people, right? But in this case, you still need to understand what people really want. So on your one-on-ones, you just understand how you can help this person grow. So we are motivated not only by titles, but also by freedom we have at work. We are motivated by how quick we can get new skills and how company can help us. So we are motivated by choosing on what we are going to work on. So all of this stuff. So
and the impact you can actually make and see.
Yeah. So on these one-on-ones, just trying to clarify and showing like how personal goals of this developer meets like company goals, where you can see these And you need to be clear. Again, that's what I like, transparency. You need to be clear. Like if there's no position, you can nothing to do. Just say so. It will be the best course of action in this situation. Yeah. So yeah, being just super transparent.
So it's very interesting because like I discussed with Simin about this. So like that if you communicate the business goals properly, your teams to the very bottom level will try to contribute to that. And what we're saying here, that looking from the other perspective, from the engineer perspective, if you understand the business goals of the company and you try to contribute to them and bring more value for the company, I believe you have also a leverage when trying to get a promotion, or because you can easily prove how you contributed to.
So there's like very good point on this and very good practice. So we just covered like onboarding, like one-on-ones. But what I really like, especially when your team is like 100 of people, is skip level meetings. So as a being like engineering manager on position from like engineering manager to VP to CTO, you should always like spend some time and talk to new people who come to your team. At least what I hear from other people, at least like 500 people, it's possible to talk to everyone who comes to your team and talk during like probation period. That's for sure. So that's what I'm doing, is just create a meeting with a new person. Let's talk. Let's see. So you just pass onboarding process from like couple of levels below. Just let me know about this experience. And on these skip level meetings, what you're doing, so we as like managers, executives, sometimes we just believe in what we say. But you need to check in reality. And this is why you use skip level meetings. You go to this meeting and say, okay, we've just delivered, just planned OKRs for the next quarter. Please tell me about them. What you know about them. You're not like judging person, you're judging yourself on their feedback.
Yourself and the process, whether it works properly.
And that your chance as an executive in the company to show everyone in your company what is the business about, to them to ask this question to you. And this is how you validate your OKR process. That's what people can answer.
And it's really like what you said previously, is that like you treat your employees as customers as well. And you check whether your product, which is like what you offer to them as well, actually gets to them, right? So I mean, this is like you would have a market research. You would need to check how your customers perceive your product and how they use it, right?
So that's exactly it. So in product development, we use like hypothesis testing a lot. So what we do, we just make an experiment. That's what you do with your engineering process too, with your hiring process, with your like HR procedures. You can test them, you can change them. And the way to test them is to go and interview your customer. Be close to your customer, be close to your people. That's what they say.
All right. So we talked a lot about culture. So who, in your opinion, is responsible for like the culture spread in the company?
I would say that from my perspective, obviously, like CEO is responsible for everything, right? And CEO delegates their responsibility to you for some extent. And culture is what we've got. But you can always like tweak it, change it, whatever to do for yourself. Again, if it's not against your business and for me, everyone's a team. Like every team might have their own culture aspects. That's totally fine. And everyone's responsible as far as it's comfortable, as far as it's allow us to deliver and do what we like. So everyone is responsible, but from like top level, that's always like the CEO of the company who starts the whole process.
Okay. You also briefly mentioned about conflict resolution. So that's like that you also try to communicate your approach to that.
Right.
What's that? What's your approach or your strategy for effective conflict resolution?
Oh, yeah. So that's a good question. So
and it's like always tricky one.
So I think first of all, like conflicts is like natural to work environment. Why so? Because we just discussed a question of promotion. There might be like 5 people competing for one position. That's a conflict basically. or conflicts there based on all different levels like resources, time, money, whatever. And that's fine. I mean, that's part of our process. The problem starts when you turn like work conflict in like kind of interpersonal conflict, or when it starts like stopping your team from doing their job. So yeah, you can mention about Tuckman model, but my approach is pretty simple. So first of all, you need to understand to yourself what is the problem. So why we believe that this is a problem, and usually to understand this problem or not, you just need to think about money, time, and people. So do we have a problem with money? Do we have a problem with time? Or do we have problems with people? Like what's going on? So once you understand this problem, the second step, you just need to go to the person or you believe who is involved in it and just share your thoughts. You're saying, okay, I think there's a problem. Do you agree on this? If another person doesn't agree on this, that's hard stop. You can do nothing. That's not solvable. But it's your job to find arguments for the another person to say, okay, yes, I agree, that's a problem. And from these, you can solve it. So you can say, okay, so what we do? If you agree that's a problem, what we do next? And your job, again, is to make sure you define the steps to resolve this problem. And your job is to make sure you check it, like in a month, in a week, saying like, okay, seems like resolved. Thank you very much for your participation on this. So the first one is to understand whether it's a real problem or not. And then making sure that other people around you understand and see it from the same angle. Mm-hmm. But again, it's also educational process for you. Sometimes you think there's a problem, but it's not. And people can tell you why it's not a problem at all.
Mm-hmm. And what if there is no conflict in the team? There are no conflicts in the team.
I think that's not possible. So, for instance, if you're creating a new team, the team will follow this process like with formation, with conflict stage, with performance stage, whatever. So that's the nature of, especially of new team. It's not only about the new team, it's also about changing condition in your team. So by adding a new person, you basically form a new team. And by team, it means that's a group of people who work on the same goal and at the same time, you understand why you need everyone as a team. So if people asking why we need you in the team, that might be a problem, right? And manager and leverage what we give to the company is making sure we pass all of these formations very quickly, and we reach like performance stage faster than other people. That's how managers make the difference. They help you to squeeze the time basically to make it shorter and perform reach performance faster.
All right. Slowly wrapping up. Quickly growing teams. So when you have all the factors and the risks we mentioned, the natural thing that comes to my mind is attrition. Yeah. In order to grow, you need to reach a certain level, but probably you're going to get some attrition in the team. If you can share, like in that case, when you were building or scaling up your team, can you share like what was the attrition level you had during the growth phase, and how you make sure it's as little as possible?
And by attrition, it means people leaving the team.
Or retention from the other end.
So again, I mean, that's a question of motivation and the goals. So sometimes you can just hire like overqualified person for this position, and again, retention will be affected by this for sure. But normally you've got like this honeymoon with new person, so it's about like a half year or two. So I see that like usually every 2 years you need to bit of change your position in the company. You need to add new skills, into new responsibility or something like do for yourself. So so normally if you've got like 2 years in the company, that's like pretty much industry standard. I'm not specifically remember like retention rates previously, but what I do to increase it is that you're just focusing on what motivates people and helping them achieve them. Just giving them why we're here. How do you know
what motivates them?
So from my perspective, there are simple things like you just need to make sure you're making an impact. You just need to make sure you have freedom and you grow professionally.
Yeah.
So and person can always say, just tell me about your skills you acquired in the last half a year. tell me like do what you're working on. Did you choose your task or someone else told you to do so? So you're just checking all of these like 3 dimensions, and then so for instance, your like goal, impact of your company, that's why it's important, plays like even like very big role in all of this. So for instance, you might be working in a health tech company, and at the same time like focusing like on payments, right? It doesn't make sense, like health tech company payments, but at the same time that makes all the sense, because the goal of health company is to help people be better. And you like in payments or being like a DevOps and responsible for infrastructure, you just make it happen. So this is how you contribute to a bigger goal. And I think the goal manager is to show how everyone contributes to it, and providing these maybe even small places to grow. So for developers, after like certain level, it's always good to think more about products and things.
All right. Any advice for anyone, getting into such a challenge of scaling the team very quickly?
So there are a couple of them. So the first one is to that's okay that you won't win everywhere. That's okay to focus only on the important stuff, and let less important stuff to be broken, or that's completely fine. You are kind of focusing on hiring. At the same time, you can forget about some kind of procedures, HR procedures, company or whatever. Sometimes that's fine. You need to be focused. You cannot like win everywhere, especially if it grows quickly. The second one, I think not we think that the growth and promotion is a really good thing. In fact, it's a very stressful thing to everyone. So when you see and when you find yourself in a stage like this, you need to think about yourself first, about stress level you accept, but also you need to provide this safe environment for your team. Growth by itself is a stressful environment. So your people will be trying to be better than and then that's a good thing. They will try to grow. They will try to keep up with the things, and that's what will give. Even without your push, they will be under pressure because of growth. And you need to create the safe environment. And
what does it mean in practice? Because I would say that what can be the stressful factors for the employees, and basically how to deal with that.
So there may be like many stressful factors in the team, and I mentioned the growth, one of them, and like.
But it should be an opportunity for the employees, right?
And that's what struck me, like at some point in the past, that like I didn't even think about that the growth itself can be a stress.
Okay.
So what you do, you basically create this like safe environment, as Google described it, like psychological safety. And there are a couple of rules of it. The first one is that everyone in the team speaks about the same time. So that's what so basically how we check that what we say as like executives makes sense to other people. You just listen what they return back to you. So if your part of your culture is for instance, user-centric, so your people need to speak about users. So every hour you need to hear that someone says like user think, user will do, or from the research I see that users are doing. So that's how you check. You check by words, by their behavior, and the same story with safety. You just listen to what they say, and by just giving them equal amount of time to say, that's your responsibility to make sure it happens in your team. That's number one. Number two, again, this is the difference between mentoring and coaching. So for me, you just mentoring when you need mentoring when these tasks like let's write let's deliver this new feature, and when person says like I don't know how to do it, this like mentoring just give you. When person says like something like I don't think this is important, that's maybe just focus on other things, or something what you've just discussed a couple of times and now again, that's maybe opportunity for coaching here. What was really motivating people to say that? So again, to when you work and you have like several departments, you just need to make sure your heads or value stream heads, whatever, they also in a safe environment. They not afraid to make a mistake.
Yeah,
that's responsibility. So yeah, talking about advices, creating a safe environment, that's one of them for sure.
All right. That was a very enlightening conversation. Thank you very much for coming all the way down from London today.
Thank you.
And I hope we meet again and continue the conversation.
Thank you very much.
Sharing their experience from tech leaders to tech leaders. This is CTO Talks.